Metal Gear Survive is the first Metal Gear game from Konami since Kojima left the company, and whilst this spin-off is set in a similar world to Metal Gear Solid 5, it can be a little overwhelming getting to grips with all the new survival systems, especially if you've never played a modern Metal Gear game before. So, in order to get you ready for the incoming beta and the final release of the game, here are 7 foolproof ways to survive in Metal Gear Survive. Human beings need 3 things to live, right? Air, food, and water. Oh, and perhaps video games, so let's make that 4 things. Anyway, air is pretty abundant at the start of Metal Gear Survive, so you won't need to worry about that just now, but you will need to sort yourself out with some lovely din-dins and something to wash it down with ASAP. Mainly because your little customizable soldier will need to be fed and watered regularly if you want them to perform to their highest standard. Luckily, the alternate reality where Survive takes place is teeming with wildlife. Wildlife that you can hunt and then harvest for meat and materials. Obviously, most hunters would opt for a stealthy approach here, but to be honest with you, I found just legging it in and delivering an absolute whopper of a haymaker to the animal's face to be just as, if not more effective than stealth. If punching seems a little bit cruel though, you can always use more traditional methods of hunting. Here I am hunting a gerbil with a gigantic pointy stick. Some might say that's a little bit of overkill, but I say I'm just being efficient. Anyway, once you have a load of raw meat, take it back to your campsite and cook it on a campfire to make it edible. It's simple to do, and in no time at all, you'll be sampling the culinary delight that is roasted gerbil. Nom 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 nom. Before you do that though, it's imperative that you schnaffle some water as well. You can find clean water in bottles dotted around the world, which you can drink at any time you see fit. If you can't find any of those though, you are able to take dirty water from streams, as long as you have an empty container to hand. Just remember to boil that water before you neck it though. I got lazy and downed a few pints of manky stream water and then ended up spending the next 10 minutes spewing my guts up. A situation made even more gross by the fact that I was wearing breathing apparatus at the time. Ugh, it's going to take me ages to wash all the chunks out of that.
You should craft units that will aid you in taking on multiple enemies.
To really survive in Metal Gear Survive, you're going to need to craft everything from weapons to buildings to weird teleporter things, and each one of those is going to require certain components in order for them to be built. You'll find most basic crafting components dotted around the game world. Things like boxes can be broken down to make wood and nails, whilst metal tins will give you iron. There's plenty of junk to yoink as well, so make sure you search every inch of any buildings you might enter. Oh, and don't forget to have a little dig around inside these damaged material boxes for more high-level crafting components. Once you've stuffed your pockets full of crap, head back to the ruins of your base to begin crafting items. Each type of item has a specific workbench with which to craft things on. There's a construction terminal which will let you build base facilities so you can upgrade, strengthen and expand your base. A gear workbench for crafting armor and gear upgrades. A gadget workbench that will allow you to build traps and defensive items like fences. A weapons workbench for all your death dealing needs. And of course, the aforementioned campfire with which you can prep meals before you head out into the unknown. There are countless crafting items and recipes to learn, so you'll be spending a lot of your game time right here, tinkering around with everything you've successfully looted from the world. The starting area of Metal Gear Survive is relatively normal. It's a desert-like wilderness with a few piles of scrap dotted around here and there. Surrounding this area, though, is an imposing wall of dust which, as you can see here, will kill you in a matter of seconds if you decide to head in there with no breathing apparatus.
Always keep an eye on your oxygen.
Once you've got the air tank equipped though, you'll be fine to wander into the dust as you see fit. But be warned, visibility is super limited and it's very easy to get turned around and lost out there. To avoid getting disoriented, keep an eye out for lights shining through the dust, which should lead you to either your current objective or back out of the dust to your home base.
You're clear of the dust.
Getting lost isn't all you'll need to worry about though. The oxygen in your air tank is finite, so you'll need to keep a close eye on it and either leg it back to the safety of your base before it runs out, or use Cuban energy to keep the levels topped up so you can extend your stay in the dust. Cuban energy can be found in multiple places around the game world, but the most common places to find it are on these weird plant-like growths, which you'll need to smash with a weapon, or it can be harvested from the bodies of fallen zombies. What a breath of fresh air. Lol. Right, so obviously you're going to need to fight things in order to survive. That's a given in this game. The more you progress, the better the weapons and traps you'll be able to craft, but at first you're really vulnerable. So here's the 2 best ways to survive at the start. Firstly, craft a load of fences. You can use these fences to barricade entrances to bases, and they will slow the enemy down for a limited time. This also gives you the perfect opportunity to dispatch a few of them with your pointy stick. Just stand behind the fence out of arm's reach, jab the zombies in their weird crystally head things, and they'll be dead in no time. Just don't let too many Zeds pile up against the fence or it'll collapse in on itself, leaving you with an angry horde to deal with. Run away! This other tip is really useful, especially at the start. The undead thingies take an annoying amount of hits to bring down, especially if there's a group of them, but not if you stealth kill them from behind. Sneak up on them, press the appropriate button when the prompt flashes up on screen, and you'll bump them off in one glorious head-stabbing maneuver. If you can stay stealthy and attack enemies this way, your chances of survival will be greatly increased. Knowing how to open locked crates correctly might not sound like the most important life-saving skill to have, but believe me, make one wrong move when dealing with these aggravating containers and you'll risk getting swarmed by loads of cranky zombies. The key to opening these crates successfully is to press R2 or the corresponding button on your console of choice to move that yellow lever there so it's always sitting within that white cone. That white cone will speed up or slow down without warning, making this an unexpectedly tricky task. Mess it up like I managed to do just about every time I tried it, and you'll either need to restart the lock-picking process from scratch or carry on forcing the crate open by hand, which is both mind-numbingly slow and incredibly comically noisy. I mean, come on, there's no way a handle would A, take that long to turn, and B, make such a loud, continuous noise. It just looks silly. Leaving these annoyances aside, this racket will alert any undead within earshot to your location, giving you an even bigger problem to worry about: staying alive. Most of the time, the contents of these crates are worth the risk. This one, for instance, has recipes for crafting your first gun, but I guarantee you'll fluff this up at least a few times before you finally get into the rhythm of it. Stupid, dumb crates. Metal Gear Survive's co-op mode takes the form of a horde mode, tower defense crossover that pits you and up to 3 friends against 3 increasingly intense waves of zombies. You're given a short amount of prep time before the horde starts shambling towards your base, so you'll need to put up some barricades as quickly as you can before arming yourself with something pointy or shooty. The easiest location for these types of missions is called the Wrecked Base. That's a location that you might recognise if you've played through Metal Gear Solid 5. Now, obviously, surviving this onslaught is going to be a lot easier to complete once you've played through a bunch of the solo campaign and leveled up your skills and learned some useful crafting recipes. If, like me, you jump right in with only a machete and a spear to your name though, I'd suggest paying attention to the side missions that occasionally spawn, because one of them will greatly improve your chances of survival. Completing the Walker Gear resupply side mission is pretty easy. Just head to a specific point on the map, clear out all the enemies, and you'll be awarded with a pair of Walker Gears. Each one is armed with a mounted minigun that will cut through the approaching hordes like nobody's business, although you'll have to be very careful not to let that minigun overheat. If you do, it takes ages to cool down. There's no real need to worry if that does happen though, because the Walker Gears also deliver very powerful kicks that will literally shatter any wanderers who happen to be standing in your way, so you can just wade into the middle of them and start laying the boot in. Smashing! Okay, so this last point might not sound like the most useful skill to have, but believe me, you'll be glad you know about it when you're hanging around in the multiplayer lobby, bored out of your mind whilst your mates fanny around with all the crafting desks. This endless white room may look dull, but there's a few things you can do to liven things up a bit. For a start, everything in your inventory is now infinite, so in my case, I was able to lob Molotov cocktails at people, jab them with sticks, and then build some kind of defensive fence structure when they tried to get revenge. I even went so far as to build a little cage for some MMA-style cage fights, which was kind of fun until my opponent climbed out and started trying to jab me in the face with a pointy stick. The coward. If trolling people with fire gets boring though, you can also have a play around with your emotes. There's not many to choose from, but I wasted a good few minutes messing around with the different combinations of gestures and voice presets.
Rock and roll!
Rock and roll indeed.
They're in!
So there we go, those were 7 foolproof ways to survive in Metal Gear Survive. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a like and do subscribe for more from Eurogamer. Goodbye.
指定の施設をベースキャンプに建設してください。クルー全員が帰還できるかどうかはこの準備にかかっています。